How Apple is secretly losing millions, and no one's talking about it. What if I told you that Apple, the trillion-dollar tech titan, the company that changed the world with the iPhone, the Mac, and the AirPods, is quietly bleeding millions every single day? Not because of some massive lawsuit, not because of global inflation, not even because of competition from Samsung or Huawei, but because of one decision, one tiny, seemingly invisible decision, that's been costing Apple a fortune behind the scenes, and hardly anyone is talking about it. This story isn't in the headlines, but if you connect the dots, you'll see, Apple is in trouble. Real trouble. It all started with a product Apple doesn't even promote anymore, the Apple AirTag. You remember the AirTag, right? That sleek little disc that helps you find your keys, wallet, dog, even your car if you're forgetful enough. Launched in 2021, it was supposed to be a simple accessory. Cheap, useful, elegant. Classic Apple. But the AirTag opened a Pandora's box. Behind the scenes, Apple's massive Find My network, the system powering the AirTag, turned every iPhone, iPad, and MacBook into a global tracking system. Cool, right? Except, Apple doesn't profit from this network. In fact, they're losing money on it, every single second. Let me explain. The Find My network uses Bluetooth signals from over 1 billion Apple devices to constantly scan the world for missing items. That means constant background processes, millions of pings per second, server upkeep, data security, encryption protocols, battery optimization, development costs, support staff, regulatory compliance. All of it, for a product that costs $29 once. No subscription, no upsell. And Apple, known for its obsession with margins, is subsidizing the entire infrastructure for free. Why? Because Apple thought AirTags would be the new Apple Watch. But they weren't. Internal estimates, leaked by an anonymous source on a popular Apple subreddit, suggest that the Find My network costs Apple upwards of $300 million a year to maintain. And that doesn't include legal expenses from lawsuits over AirTag-related stalking and abuse cases. Yes, you heard that right. Apple, the privacy-focused company, is now spending millions defending a product that earns them barely anything. Insiders say some executives are now calling AirTag Apple's most expensive mistake since the butterfly keyboard. Remember when Apple removed the headphone jack? When they shipped iPhones without chargers for the environment? When they introduced USB-C, but only in Europe? Apple's brand is all about efficiency, profit, minimalism. And yet here they are, quietly funding a global tracking network that barely contributes to the bottom line. It's like building a highway and letting everyone use it for free, while you pay for the construction, maintenance, and lawsuits. Apple, what are you doing? But that's not the only thing Apple is losing money on. Let's talk about another massive leak: refurbishment waste. According to supply chain analysts, Apple refurbishes millions of devices every year, but less than 40% are ever resold. Why? Strict cosmetic standards, packaging rules, hardware certification, return policies. All this means warehouses full of barely used MacBooks, iPads, and iPhones just sitting there, each one worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars, doing nothing. Insiders claim that Apple destroys up to $50 million in perfectly usable inventory annually because it doesn't meet internal appearance standards. Think about that. Perfectly functional iPhones, crushed because they had a scratch. And it gets worse. Apple's obsession with privacy, while great for users, is costing them in unexpected ways. Take the new app tracking transparency feature. It lets users block apps from tracking them. It's great. But guess what? That single update has cost Apple billions in ad revenue from third-party partners like Facebook, Instagram, and game developers. Meta alone reported a $10 billion drop in revenue, and Apple didn't make a cent from it. In fact, some advertisers have started pulling budgets away from iOS entirely. Apple essentially nuked a revenue stream, not just for others, but for itself, all to prove a point. Meanwhile, Google is still printing money, Amazon is still feeding ads, TikTok is still tracking everything, and Apple losing millions, quietly, elegantly. But why? Why would the most profitable company in the world keep doing this? Some say it's pride, others say it's long-term thinking. But whatever the reason, Apple is bleeding, and nobody's noticing yet. So next time you buy an AirTag, or admire Apple's stance on privacy, or wonder why your old iPad wasn't eligible for trade-in, just remember, it might be costing Apple more than you think. Or maybe that's exactly what they want you to believe. Smash that like button, subscribe if you want more Apple secrets, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Apple is too proud to change? Or is this all part of a bigger plan? Because sometimes what looks like a loss might be Apple's most brilliant strategy yet.